Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I'm John, my co-host is Andy, and we are talking Survivor Game Changers, episodes 8 and 9. And after a long week of weighty discussions and disagreements about very important issues facing transgender people, it is nice to finally get back to something we can all agree on. Survivor Reddit is awful.
Indeed. We're the worst when it comes to inciting violence and negativity on the internet, aren't we?
Yeah, if anyone's a troll on the internet, it is definitely us.
But, I mean, to be fair, we're not exactly fair to that place. To be unfair, if any place deserves it, come on. Even if you like going there, which some of our listeners do, which you do sometimes.
I do.
Come on. A place that deserves to get a takedown every once in a while is definitely that.
I like when they get all defensive about it, too. It's my favorite part of going there.
It's like, you guys fight all the time there. You gotta, like, if I was the place, it'd be like, oh, yeah, this place sucks, but I kind of like it anyway. But it's probably one of those, no one picks on my little brother but me type deals. Hey, are you excited to get back to talking about the show about, lying and deceit? The friendly stuff.
Yes, all the stuff that we've tuned in for.
But more than that, are you excited to finally talk about Cirie?
Oh my god, it's been so long. You see, this is the problem with Challenge Beast Cirie, is that you just don't get to enjoy enough of her, because she's too busy just dominating challenges, that's taking up the bulk of her screen time. It's like, no, we don't even have time for Cirie confessionals. We just need to show you how badass she is at these challenges now.
Absolutely. Her and Michelle Fitzgerald, badasses at challenges that never, go to tribal council.
Yeah. And also never give confessionals, except for very key points about how we're merging now.
Sadly, Cirie didn't even get those. But man, it was great to see Cirie doing Cirie things.
Oh, it's been so long. It's really like, when she was brought back for the season, this is why we were excited. This is the type of stuff we wanted to see. Cirie just being Cirie. And you had to start worrying, right? Like her fastball might be gone because we just didn't get almost any Cirie early on. And what little we did seemed to suggest that she was struggling. Like, people weren't connecting with her. She didn't really have bonds made. People weren't willing to align with her. And slowly she started to pick up a few people here and there, but it never seemed like she would have enough to get any sort of solid alliance going. And now she's running things.
We can talk about whether she's running things. I say Cirie is doing things and doing things in her Cirie way, which is, it's great to hear. The band is playing the songs you like, but running things might be a bit of an exaggeration given the way these episodes turned out. I
might just be excited to have Cirie back.
No, absolutely. What I kind of sat with at the end of this episode, or these episodes, there were two of them, and as I said, it didn't actually end up going her way at the end. Although she still did a little extra that we're going to talk about. It's just, this season isn't what we wanted it to be, and it's not going to be what we wanted it to be. But what I felt, and where I'm just going to kind of find my happiness, is in moments like what Cirie gave us in these two episodes. And what I kind of relate it to, it's like going to like a big festival where the headliners aren't really people you care for. They're like the new bands that you don't really care for. It's like, the Chainsmokers, 21 Pilots. It's like, whatever. I might stick around for the end to see them. I might not. A lot of their fans are there. That's what's at the merch table. But on the same, card, that's more of a wrestling or fighting term, on the same festival, is some like classic bands you really like. And they don't get as long, they don't get to finish the night. They don't get as long a set, but you get to sit there and appreciate it. And we got that with Sandra. We're getting it now with Cirie. So it's like, this might not be their season, but we got to hear the hits.
Yeah, didn't we? It wasn't Outkast an act at Coachella a few years ago, and the damn millennials just didn't appreciate what they were getting?
Nah, I bet they did. Coachella is kind of a place where people get excited about the reunion bands. But I mean, hey, did you guys tune in to hear us old white guys talk about Coachella? Because that's maybe less qualified than what we were talking about last week.
I don't know. I think we should just move on to our planned New Balance shoes discussion.
Hey, they're comfortable. You guys will get it when you're older.
All right, let's go back to talking about Cirie. Speaking of old people that we love. She did this kind of like subtle maneuver here where she got people to work with her but make it seem like they weren't working with her and then make the rest of the alliance not worried that there was an alliance going on. She's just doing a lot of little subtle things, but she's making sure she takes care of loose ends, so that the trail doesn't come back to her.
Yeah, and she's explaining to us, which is why it's so fun to relive it. And I guess we can get into the specifics. So the first is getting rid of Haley instead of Michaela. So I guess more protecting Haley, thus keeping a potential number for herself and removing Haley, which Cirie explains it as a potential number for Brad and them. And this is where I get it. It's like, it's great to see her doing things because she did move things around. It was going to be Michaela, as, the first 10 minutes really underlined to make it so obvious that, it's definitely going to be Michaela. And then in the end, it becomes Haley. Now, ultimately, she got rid of Haley. It's like, I was so excited, and I excited how she was able to, get Zeke to go over there to do the move. Just like she gets, Natalie Bolton to go do the move with Eric, and, and she's moving things around. And then, as you say, at Tribal Council, she still has Michaela vote the way that Michaela's supposed to vote so that nobody's tipped off. She still votes the way she's supposed to vote, obviously with the level of confidence that she knows where all the votes are going. Because if she didn't know where everything was going, then it would be really bad if her and Michaela's vote sent Michaela home. And that shows like the level of control. But I don't think they were actually thinking of Haley as a potential alliance partner. I really do think that main group was just like, yeah, sure, Michaela or Haley.
Yeah, and that is a good point, that Haley was kind of a red shirt. So, they're not really taking a shot at Brad's alliance here so much as just they're kicking the can for that eventual matchup down the road.
And protecting Michaela. Like, that is a win, right?
Yes.
She kept somebody who Cirie felt she could work with, and clearly Haley wasn't one of those people. So that's a win. But Cirie sold it to us. It's like, oh, but Haley, they want to protect Haley so that they can use Haley. I don't think they had any interest in using Haley.
No, and I think the key was the way that Cirie protected Michaela, told her exactly what to do, told her exactly what would go down, and then when it did, she said, you see, I did what I said, you did what I told you, things worked out, right? You can trust me. And Michaela's like, yeah. She has definitive proof. Okay, Cirie is not lying to me. She broke down exactly how it was going to go. That's how it went. I can trust Cirie.
Yeah, and then we see her working moves in the second episode. And it looks like she's going to, take control of the game. She's going to, make a big move. Are we allowed to say it's big moves, or do we only get to say big moves when we don't like them or it doesn't turn out? Tell me, is it a big move to take down the people that you say is controlling the game, or is that, again, just going with the flow? I'm trying to grasp a hold of what people have been arguing this week.
The important thing is that if we say big moves, we have to pay a licensing fee to Jeff Probst because he trademarked that bitch.
Yeah, but if we say it, I guess it's derogatory because big moves don't win Survivor. But I feel like getting a bunch of people together who've never voted for before to take down the people you say who are running the game, and Sierra and Brad, that feels like a big move to me. So she was doing that, and again, it was like great. It's like, look at Cirie doing all this, and as you say, her fingerprints weren't necessarily all over it, but I guess it didn't work. But still, it was great to see her do things instead of, as you say, in the first episode, we saw her try to do things and none of it was working.
Right. Yeah, and that was the worry, is that, oh no, this is just not going to come together for her. And I said at the beginning of the season, she has the biggest uphill battle because it's going to be so hard for people to say, oh yeah, I'm cool with bringing Cirie to the end, because this is what she can do. I mean, she thinks about the game enough that she ties up all the loose ends. And actually, with this group, she probably doesn't even need to go that far. I don't know that she's, playing against necessarily the sharpest of opponents. We'll get into that in a little bit. But this is what she's capable of. And it's nice that we got to see that. I'm not confident that she's sticking around to the end, but at least we got to see what she's capable of again.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like even Heroes versus Villain. We got to see her work her magic a bit, and then it just kind of didn't work. And that's the same thing here. It was great to see her do those things. But what I wonder is, as you say, it's subtle. She's, behind the scenes, doing her puppet master thing, not stepping out too far, which is all the sort of things that people who love on the internet, because it makes us feel like we're the smarter fans. It's the notes you don't hear that really make the strategy.
She's playing jazz out there.
That's right. Can it work though? Because that's the point. Like, by the end of these 2 episodes, somebody she was aligned with went home and she's down numbers. And it's like, maybe it's too subtle to crack what is pretty, as you kind of were hinting at. The other side they don't need as much subtlety because they're just kind of like, hey, let's just all vote together because those other people are more dangerous than us.
Yeah, I mean, they have basically the brute force, which is all they need. Is they've got numbers, they know they've got numbers, and they can just overwhelm you with those numbers.
Yeah, and not only they have the numbers, they also have, like, and this will lead into, the next part, like, not right away, but other people wanting to work with them because they are also the numbers that, like, feel easier to work with. Because it's not just that the lesser thans have all teamed up and taken out the people we like, it's that the people we like have aided the lesser thans in taking out the people we like. Because, they're also like, hey, that person's a threat too, it's like, you hear Ozzy's name is on the chopping block, it's like, sure, let's take out Ozzy, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so the fear was that the basically what happened was the big guns on this season all thought, oh, I'll just take these little pawns, I'll use them to take out the other big guns. Problem is, now you're vastly outnumbered by the pawns, and the pawns have decided, oh, look, we can win the game now.
Yeah, let's just stay with our pawniness, and that's what's been working. That's what happened here. Before we're done talking about Cirie, and actually, with her subtle moves, with her tying up loose ends. What was going on with that vote at the end of the second episode where she voted for Sierra Dawn Thomas?
Yeah, what the hell was that? The only answer that I've come up with was that maybe she wanted people to question where that Sierra vote came from.
But I think almost definitely that's why. And to aid that, as she's casting the vote, she's like, I'm just doing this to spice things up. But why?
Yes.
Why? Yeah, so I think that's her motivation. Why are you doing that? Why is that your motivation? For me, there's 2 ways that this, I think, goes down. It's either she got word that it's Ozzy and there's nothing she can do about it. And so she knows that her vote won't matter. At best, it could force a tie. And ties are not a situation you want to be in this season. So then she threw it away, but she didn't want to just vote for Ozzy. She wanted to see if her vote could do something more than just being tacked onto that vote. And that's possible, especially when you consider that, again, she must have been hyper confident the vote before that she knew where all the votes were going. Because otherwise, her and Michaela could have voted Michaela out. Maybe Sarah told her where the vote was going. Maybe she could read Ty because that's not so hard to do. So these things are possible. Perhaps more likely is that she thought everybody was voting for Zeke, and she just kind of did that too. Figuring her vote wouldn't matter, and this was, a way of throwing a monkey wrench in for next, because she thought, okay, cool, we're getting rid of, the rat this time, and now we'll do this. So I think it's one of those. I don't know if we'll ever know why. But as it was puzzling, I also think, it kind of shows she's thinking of other things to do, because I think it could work to a degree that there's enough votes, and she's only voted twice. Who knows what her votes look like? That maybe it would make Sierra Dawn Thomas a little paranoid and play worse.
Well, that would be a high bar, because we'll get into some of the things that Sierra did later. But I don't really. Is the one stray vote going to make her panic? I mean, I don't know that that's all that much to be confused about. If there was a couple votes that went her way, then maybe you start to say, what the hell? Where did that happen? Or how did that happen? I don't know that one vote does it.
I don't know if it does a lot, but again, if you feel like your vote isn't going to do anything anyway, either because you've heard that Ozzy's a dead man walking, or that you feel Zeke has, 10 votes or whatever, and maybe it's worth a try just to see if you can put your opponent on tilt. And if you're Cirie, you got to feel like you can withstand Sierra Dawn Thomas witch hunt, no problem. But, maybe Aubrey catches a stray, or maybe, I don't know. That's the other thing. Aren't the people who are going to catch strays the supposed allies of Cirie?
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is I think she might have been overthinking this a little bit. That was her one slip up in an otherwise pretty solid game in these 2 episodes here.
So the other great thing about seeing Cirie was her, serving the role as life coach to Michaela.
Oh, yes. And you keep confusing Michaela and Haley so far, which is really weird. But yes, it was. You've done it twice. Anyway, not just now, though. So, Cirie and Michaela, oh my God, that scene. 45 seconds of really coded language that just like, it was, Probst likes to say like, oh, Survivor reflects society and vice versa, or, Survivor reflects what we see in society. This was a reflection of how society works, because Cirie was banking on the fact that it would make the people on her tribe nervous if she was publicly aligned with Michaela, which sucks, but is probably true. And Cirie knows that, not just in Survivor, but in life. And she knows it so well that she knows the ways around it and ways to make it work. And in just that short conversation with Michaela, you read between the lines and it's so clear what's being said, but they're trying to avoid directly saying it with the cameras around. And it's just a thing of beauty to watch.
Well, I just think Cirie is trying to avoid saying it with the cameras around, and continues to her confessionals where she even like pauses on the word and then finds another one. Whereas Michaela, no, she just comes out and says it.
Michaela eventually gets there. Yeah, in episode 2, Michaela finally turns the subtext into text, and she says, hey, it's two black women working together. I'm here for this.
Yeah, and as has been pointed out on our site and others, this is the first time 2 black women have ever made the merge in Survivor. And some people have been like, yeah, well, there hasn't been that many seasons with 2 black women, which is also a bad thing.
Right.
That's not a defense necessarily, the way you might think it is.
But just if you look at the conversation that they have, like you said, Cirie is very carefully choosing her words. She's like, this is just woman to woman in her conversation. And she's telling, she's like, as an older person talking to a younger person, she's very careful not to say what we know that she's actually talking about. But my favorite part of the whole thing, though, is, again, if you know what she's saying, it's so very clear. She's telling Michaela, be as regular as you can. I quoted this because this was so good. Be as regular as you can, because if you make any tension whatsoever, it don't take a lot here for them to look at you as a target. And you can read all sorts of things into that sentence, but I think it's pretty clear that Cirie is suggesting that for whatever reason, it might not take much to make people upset at Michaela.
Yeah, and this is, I think, shows like generationally, like Cirie has played this game, and I'm not necessarily referring to Survivor, for a long time. And, Michaela is more of a younger generation, not necessarily here for this. And, that would be great if she wouldn't have to be.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it is a microcosm completely. Now, obviously, and this is where, people can throw in conditionals and like, they always do when these conversations get a little uncomfortable, that they are both on kind of the smaller side of numbers. But, there's other questions like, well, why are they? Well, it's like, why isn't Michaela a complete unknown, being able to be part of the, alliance of also-rans? So, yeah, and even like, other people have said that Michaela is annoying. It's not just, like in this instance, Sierra Dawn Thomas. It's like, oh, well, why did the way Michaela act bother people so much? And would it if there was a more diverse people for her to hang around with?
Well, I'll put it this way. Why is it that Michaela is just this loose cannon and she's shifty and she's dangerous and explosive, but you're cool with having Debbie in your alliance?
And some of that is because Debbie's in your alliance, and some of it is like, if you're not outside of our alliance, I'd prefer it if you kiss our butts. Because Haley, of course, was also getting not quite the same as Michaela, but some of that treatment as well. It's like, you're too standoffish. Because I kind of feel like Sierra Dawn Thomas is getting pretty comfortable in her role as being in control. But I'm also right there with you, and there's something there. And we've said this before, or at least I have, and I'll say it again. It's not necessarily racism. Diversity is important for more than just people are racist. Diversity is important because it's like, that kind of attitude, I don't know, that's not the way we do things. So yeah, I think that was all there in the scenes with Cirie and just in the conversations about Michaela all season.
Yeah, there's been some things that, you could take a lot of different ways. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. without, completely letting Michaela off the hook, because even the people who maybe understand her a bit more, her two mentor figures, Sandra and Michaela, are both like, yeah, but you kind of show your emotions too much. Like, that is totally Michaela. I'm sure all her friends would say that about her. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but it seems maybe it bothers you more because you're maybe just not used to people who are like that.
I just want to point out that you just called Cirie Michaela. You are really having a problem tonight identifying who Michaela is.
I guess so.
Might want to tack a little picture next to your computer and remind you, a little headshot of Michaela. This is her.
Or you're just not, you're probably right. And when I hear this again, but maybe you're just not understanding when I'm actually talking about Cirie or Haley.
Sure, could be. But the nice thing, though, that you pointed out is that Michaela has had the endorsement of Sandra and Cirie. And for me, that's all I need. I can totally understand, you know what? She clearly seems to be a strong personality. I bet that does rub some people the wrong way. It wouldn't surprise me, regardless of any other factors. But for me, just watching it, all it took was seeing Sandra and Cirie saying like, all right, I like Michaela. I can work with Michaela. And I'm like, sold, as if I wasn't already, but still, sold.
Yeah, and I also think there's probably some level of like, they feel like Michaela should be the humble rookie. Even though, like, she's been on Survivor just as much as you guys. You just didn't watch it. It's like, she does not need to show deference to Sierra Dawn Thomas.
No one really does.
But apparently they do, because she's running things. So yeah, the reason why Cirie's big plans didn't work was because Zeke had different ideas, and so bad. How dare he make big moves when other people are making big moves? Was it as bad an idea as people are saying it is?
I know this is your baby, so I want to let you have your rant, but I think there's a lot of different potential things that could have been happening here that maybe we didn't see. It's entirely possible that he was just aware that Sierra and Brad's sides got the numbers. So it doesn't really matter. And he's hoping to jump over there and maybe at least steer the vote if he could in some way. And he may think he can work with Sierra later because, we did get to see them talking. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he just saw where the numbers were and said, yeah, I'm willing to work with that side. And in order to do that, went and told Sierra, hey, they were going to vote for you. I'm on your side, just to solidify that bond with her.
Yeah, I think there's a few things in play here, and this is where people get mad at me for completely misrepresenting their thoughts, even though the madder you get, probably the closer I am. One, Zeke himself is overselling himself and his motivations and his abilities, and, when you fail, that looks bad. Two, he failed. This is results-based analysis. His move looks bad because it didn't pay off. And again, it looks even worse when you arrogantly give confessionals about how you're lining up snipers and all of that. So I get those things. And then three, people really wanted him to go with the Cirie plan. I wanted him to go with the Cirie plan. Yep. And when he doesn't go with the Cirie plan and our hopes and dreams for the season fall apart, it's a bad move. How dare he? He had such a sure thing. But here's my question. And obviously I'm phrasing like a question, but I'm going to set up my own answer. But
of course,
you can answer. Why are we acting like the Cirie plan was this sure thing until he tore it apart? As I hinted at earlier, these are it was 7 people who had never voted together before. And now it's that was rock solid, locked in. That's the easy, safe move that Zeke just couldn't do because he's so itching to make a big move.
Yeah, I don't know how solid people like Sarah and Aubrey, and I'm trying to think of who else was even in that group.
Even Ozzy, right?
Even Ozzy, yeah. It wasn't necessarily a sure thing because Ozzy had certainly earlier in the game expressed that he was not cool with working with Cirie.
In that episode, he did talk about wanting to work with Cirie. But in the earlier episode, he was talking to Brad and Troy about getting rid of Michaela like it wasn't a big deal. And he actually voted for Michaela. Was he part of Cirie's counter attack? Maybe, but honestly, he probably just voted for Michaela. He was probably fine with that. So yeah, it's Cirie's plan had a lot of moving parts, of which she thought, Zeke was one of the locked in parts. But yeah, while Cirie and Zeke are having the conversation about this plan, Aubrey is actually walking behind them, talking, or not talking. She's definitely not talking. But like, they're aware she's there. She just seems to be part of this conversation. But in no part of that did I ever get the sense like, oh yeah, Aubrey's definitely in on this plan. I was kind of like
locked in.
Have you guys asked her if she's cool with this? Because I don't know. So I never felt like Aubrey was a for sure thing. If you're telling me that Sarah was totally a sure thing, then explain to me her vote at the end of the episode. And I think there is some explanation. The big part is that, she was probably cool with voting out Ozzy. And she gave a confessional suggest if somebody picks who I want to go, that's who I'll go with. But so is that she was still a bit of a free agent too. So Zeke joining in Cirie's plan to go against that other group is also a big move. There wasn't like some kind of stasis for Zeke to just kind of live in and let control the game. This was decision time for him, and he decided to do something he wanted to do as opposed to something Cirie wanted to do. Nobody's criticizing Cirie for making a big move. That failed, by the way.
Cirie is like the Pope. She's like infallible. She's Survivor Pope. Sandra might be the queen, Cirie is the Survivor Pope. However, before we move off of Zeke here...
Well, I'm not nowhere near done moving off.
Good. I wouldn't imagine that you would be. You never are at a loss for words. I don't want to discount the fact that he's playing and trying to keep his game together right after a moment that was probably really traumatic for him, and that can't be easy. It's entirely possible that he just felt like in that moment, he had lost so much agency and power that, he just wanted to get it back and be, Zeke the survivor, the power player. And that could have been his motivation. But I think, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation here is probably just he saw where the votes were, wanted to work his way into that alliance.
Well, even if you didn't see where the votes were, because, some people have been coming back at me. It's like, oh, the votes weren't even locked in. It was early. It wouldn't, he flipped it. For one, I disagree with the notion that Zeke flipped at all. The vote before, he was in part of the big group that was just deciding between these two, Michaela and Haley, whatever, right? He has connections to everybody on that other side. They were all, other than Troy, all on his original tribe. Troy was then on his second tribe. And then, during, his last tribe, his heart, the hardest moment for him in the game, Debbie and Ty were there. These are meaningless. I don't know why we think that he has a closer alliance with Cirie than he necessarily had with Debbie or Ty or Sarah.
I should point out, though, that Debbie suggested in a confessional at that reward that, she doesn't really trust Zeke. He's too busy trying to corral power over to his side, and she can see right through it. And Sierra, too, gives a confession later on that she feels like Zeke talks down to her, she gets the impression that Zeke thinks she's dumb, which I'll just bite my tongue on that one. So he does have some relationships with that side. I don't know how solid they are, though.
Yeah, no, these are good notes. I'm just going to put those aside because it gets into the next part. I'm just saying, people are acting like he flipped. I think he was just choosing which side. He hadn't yet had forced to choose. This was the time where sides were being divided, and he picked one. Now, he flipped on Andrea, absolutely 100%. And, she did not take that very well.
Mm-mm.
But, yeah, it's that wasn't a locked-in thing. To act like, if Zeke had just signed up and, with Cirie's plan, that everything would have gone fine, it would have been easy. No, it was time to make a big move. Cirie was making a big move. She was trying to take out the people that she was saying were running the game. And if you just were looking on paper, not knowing, where you could necessarily move in ahead or not, which alliance do you think you would have more success winning Survivor against? Sierra, Brad, Debbie, Ty, Troy, or Cirie, Andrea, Michaela, Ozzy, Aubrey?
Zeke definitely had the right read there, because when we get into our discussion about Sierra later, which I'm very excited for which is something I never thought I'd say, there are reasons to think that side is very beatable. There's also reasons that we should probably get into later that it may not be as beatable as Zeke perceives it to be.
Oh, no. And then, I think everybody right now, they're just listening and getting angry. I don't think Zeke did a good move. I just don't think the idea was wrong. the problem was execution. You know, people who mostly just came on and was like, it's the idea, the very idea of doing what he did is a mistake, and it's all because of these personal flaws he has and that he's always had. And I reject that completely. Cirie was making a big move, and we love Cirie, so it must have been a great idea, even though, yeah, it wasn't a successful one. But yeah, it was the execution. Exactly what you were getting at. I think flipping to those people, he had reason to do it, not just, because they were good targets and also because he had prior relationships with them. But he sucked at it in a way that he didn't suck at it last time. But yeah, I think, when Debbie's like, I see right through him, it's really unfortunate because he was telling her the truth. Right. He actually told her exactly what happened, but he did it in a way. Yeah, exactly. But he did it in a way that didn't make them feel comfortable. And part of it is probably because for them, it felt like, why is he doing this? He must have an ulterior motive. And I think the other part of it is, he probably comes off as a little smarmy.
Yeah, and that's the thing you like most about him is that he's a little bit of an arrogant guy.
Yeah, so it's like, Zeke actually did a poor job, but the job wasn't the move he made, it was how he did it. And you can make an argument. And I think the other big mistake he made within that move is he shouldn't have been dictating terms. He should have been like, hey, how about we get out Andrea? He should have been like, hey, I'm working with you guys. What are we doing? What's the plan here? What's the goal? Because right. I think there's plenty of reason to choose to go with those people. I also think that, Sarah goes where he goes, and probably Sarah more likely would want to go with Sierra's group than Cirie's group.
And at the very least, just come in. You can give her that same info. Cirie and Andrea are throwing your name out. I'm not that interested. I'm with you guys, whoever you want to counterstrike against, rather than, as you said, saying, so let's take out Andrea, because that gave Sierra pause and say, well, I thought you guys were tight.
Yeah, or maybe even come up with more truth, really. It's like, I don't really want to go to the end with Cirie and Ozzy and Andrea. I'd much rather work with you. And the rest of them are like, we don't want to do that either. Come on in, Because that's it. Like, people who are, like, faulting him, like, are you seriously acting like Zeke was going to win the game if he had gone with Cirie's plan? Is that what you're saying? He had it all lined up but he just couldn't help himself? I mean, like, maybe, but I feel like amongst that group of Cirie's, quote unquote alliance that I'm still yet to be convinced was actually an alliance. He's the 5th or 6th most prominent member.
Well, and then the other issue too is sort of what Zeke brought up at Tribal Council, which I think kind of exposed that this is not the group that he thinks it is. It's certainly not the group that they had last season that was much more willing and open to discuss strategy and rational decision making and those sorts of things, both at Tribal Council and in the game. I don't think this is that group. And,
no.
And so telling those sorts of things to Sierra or to Brad or even to Ty, I think that makes them say, oh, okay, so you're essentially saying like, you're just in this for yourself, which obviously that's why everyone plays. But I think they don't want to hear that. I think they want the lie that, hey, I'm here for my squad and we're going deep in this thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that also underlines, it kind of goes back to why they just didn't feel good about him in the first place. It's an alliance of people that are very suspicious of anybody who might be good at stuff. It's like... So him, he's making this big move. Well, why is he making a big move? That makes him a big threat. Maybe we should get rid of him. Why is he saying these things? Oh my God, he's so smart. He's a big threat. We should get rid of him. We cannot allow anything but mediocrity to, infiltrate our ranks. Come on in, Sarah, but, Zeke, you stay over there. And actually, some people are saying, well, obviously Ozzy was with them. He voted with them. Well, he voted with them because Zeke betrayed him. That's a very Aussie mentality of having. Obviously, Aubrey was with them. She voted with them. No, she voted for Zeke. She didn't vote for Sierra. We still don't know if Aubrey was ever actually down to vote against that big group. And why would she have voted for Zeke? It's not necessarily because Cirie told her. It's because that's what they were pretending everybody was doing. It could just be because Debbie didn't tell her to vote for Ozzy. Not necessarily because she was on board. She might have been. I don't know. But... we actually don't know anything about Aubrey and her desires and wishes in this game. So to assume, I think, is a little unfair.
And should we talk about how Debbie is calling the shots there? As you said, she didn't tell Aubrey to vote Ozzy. but she certainly told a lot of other people. We saw her telling Troy, Ty, and Sarah to vote Ozzy, and that's where the vote went.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to praise what Debbie did, but again, she made a big move, and I think we're supposed to say whenever somebody does a big move that they're just addicted to making big moves. Or was taking out Ozzy at the last second with a bunch of people and just telling them how to vote as opposed to, slowly building consensus. Is that just going with the flow, and which is what everybody should be doing? I'm just trying to keep score here.
I think the key thing to note here is that Debbie is a total game bot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the only way I can think of it because all she cares about is making big moves and taking out big threats like Ozzy.
Right.
She couldn't just go with the flow and take out Zeke where everybody was going to go for, right?
Right, exactly.
Or it's maybe possible that we're just judging based on success and failure here. And that's not fair. Clearly, some people are just judging based on who they like and who they don't like.
I can't imagine what that's like.
Literally in this episode, Cirie says, after Sierra goes up to Cirie and tells her, this is the easy vote and we should just get rid of Michaela, Cirie stops and says, is that good for my game? Why should I go with that? Because Sierra said so? Flip a few of those words and have Ozzy say, should I just go with that plan because Cirie says so? And of course, all of us at home was like, yes, you should because Cirie said so.
Exactly. That's actually a much better justification than Sierra saying so.
But, I mean, what else could I be? I was impressed with what Debbie did because, yeah, it is a more useful vote. Getting rid of Zeke is just another way of, kicking the can down the road. Zeke, he might be lying to you. He might be wanting to work with you. I don't know if he's as threatening as Ozzy. Ozzy, can do some things.
Yeah, and, you never know that maybe Brad and Troy might pull in Ozzy, and now they've got numbers against Debbie and Sierra and whoever else they have on their side, maybe Sarah, who knows. So it's a reasonable risk to take, and I think that probably factored into their plan somewhat.
Yeah, and moreover, if you know that that other group is ready to take out Zeke, it's like, well, let them vote for Zeke. Let's take out one of them instead.
Sure. Exactly. If the numbers end up split, then who cares? One of your targets is going home.
Exactly, yeah. The losing scenario here is that you lose Zeke. Well, okay, whatever. We didn't really want him anyway. Right. And the win is that we take out Ozzy. So, yeah, no, I think that was a great move by Debbie. That, Sierra Dawn Thomas also gets to claim that it's her own because she was sitting in the hammock when it happened.
That's right, calling the shots, as she does. Can we talk about Sierra yet? I'm so excited.
I've had my rant. I'm ready for yours.
Oh, so good. Because, Sierra's in charge now because it was so clearly spelled out to us that Sierra's in charge now. Only problem with that, although, quick disclaimer before I get into this, I did enjoy her arrogance. I like that she suddenly decided that she's good at this game and she's gonna, rub it in some faces.
Yeah, it's not just that she's confident about doing stuff. It's like she's acting kind of bow down, everyone. Sierra Dawn Thomas is about to work.
Kiss the ring of fan favorite Sierra Dawn Thomas. I did enjoy that. Unironically, that was great. However, Sierra complaining that Michaela keeps interrupting her conversations, those conversations are the ones where she's trying to discuss voting Michaela out. So yeah, maybe Michaela had a sense that you had something going against her and was like, I'm going to see what's going on over here. So it's more that you're not really commanding the situation in a way that allows Michaela to feel comfortable enough to let you have those conversations. And then later on, the plan to vote out Ozzy, Sierra's just agreeing to that and then talking about how there's a new sheriff in town. Yeah, there is, and it's Debbie. And then, my favorite, because this is Sierra, the shot caller, she tells everyone, hey, you guys, we're going to split the votes because I don't know if I trust Haley anymore, man. She might have an idol. She's really playing this game. And then she suggests a plan wherein Haley gets fewer votes.
Yeah, the whole thing just read to me like Sierra Dawn Thomas is like, it's turn to play, and I gotta do all these things. Oh, wait, what haven't I haven't thought of? Oh, wait, the idol, and Haley's acting weird. Completely bad read. If Haley had an idol, wouldn't she have played it when you sent home Caleb? I mean, I suppose she could have found it between now and then, except that Ty found one of those, so, yeah, anyway.
Well, more importantly, if you're worried that she has an idol...
Yeah, I was getting there, but yes.
You're going to play less votes on her so that if she doesn't play it, she knows you're coming for her next so she can play it?
Yeah, that was the crux of Zeke's argument.
Yes, and rightly so.
Cirie put him up to them, and she acted a little annoyed at that. But it's like that was what he like. It's not even that he's trying to call the vote. It's like if your plan is to flush an idol, you have to vote out the idol holder.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong. That's why Zeke was criticizing you. He's not trying to call the shots. He's trying to point out that your plan is dumb.
And this might go back into why things didn't work with him and why she feels he's arrogant and feels like she's dumb. Because he was trying, but there's probably not a good way to talk to somebody about that without talking to them like they're dumb. Because it's dumb!
Yeah, I mean, like, short of sitting there and diagramming it out on the sand for her, okay, here's how numbers work. If there's more numbers over here, that person goes home. It's just, I get why she would think that he was talking down to her, but I also get why he might have talked down to her.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not sure. And maybe this is because I'm not the social player of, Michelle Fitzgerald or something. I don't know how I could have talked to somebody about that without highlighting that maybe you're not dumb, but your plan is dumb. If your plan is to flush the idol by putting not enough votes to get rid of the idol holder, then just don't do it. Just don't bother flipping and just hope they're playing an idol, because that's what you're doing. You're hoping that Haley plays an idol she doesn't need to play, and those minority votes just don't matter. Unless, you're also worried about Michaela playing an idol. It's like, well, one of them has an idol, we don't know which one, we'd rather get rid of Michaela. And if that's the case, well, that's your answer to Zeke.
Yep.
It's like, okay, it might be one of them, we'd rather get rid of Michaela. But that wasn't it. She wanted to get rid of Michaela. That was her goal.
Exactly.
And then she gets this last second, oh no, Haley could have an idol. Let's put some votes on her too. But it's like, yeah, a minority of votes won't cut it. All you're going to do is either she just plays an idol, in which case, okay, your votes were meaningless, but good, the idol's gone. Or she doesn't play the idol and she continues to possibly maybe have an idol.
I really hope that she gets booted before Final Six so that she can't use that legacy advantage. Like, please, just give it to somebody else. I almost don't care who.
Yeah, and to give her some level of credit isn't the word, but she was getting, highlighted by people that we respect, namely Cirie, as, the big shot caller, the person in charge. And we should, at least mention that so that, it's not just always assume that it's Brad, but in some ways, I kind of feel like that doesn't help Sierra. Isn't it somehow Sierra Dawn Thomas has become Brad Culpepper's shield in this game?
Yeah, which might work into that whole Brad Culpepper winners edit thing. Maybe we'll discuss that later. But I think the interesting thing here is that Sierra's getting credit, which means she's also getting some blame for both the betrayals and the bad moves.
Yeah, and she's the target, right? They weren't going after Brad, they were going after her. And I think there's two things at play here. Maybe because she actually does feel more like, the person calling the shots, although then you have to ask, why does she feel like that? As opposed to Brad, for one, people generally just default to, hey, the biggest guy, he must be the leader. They didn't do that. Is it because she's imperiously sitting in her hammock all the time looking down on people? Maybe it's because she's the person reaching out to people. Yeah, that's a more positive way. Another thing is, it feels like if she gets to a final 3 with Brad, she might take the hit. If, there's some kind of counterinsurgents for one vote, she might take the hit. So I kind of feel like, she's obviously in a good position in the game. I don't know if she's in a better position to win based on that. And some of that could just be because I don't like her. I am not free of bias or by any chance.
To be fair, I don't know that the edit seems to be liking her either.
Yeah, that's how I feel. That's she's being set up by for the arrogance edit, and let's go right in now, because Brad wasn't praised these 2 episodes necessarily. Has the overwhelming Brad Culpepper winners edit taken a hit?
Well, in some ways, but I think there's also still some signs of it. I mean, when Zeke started talking about the last episode,
you got on this too.
Brad is supportive. He's puffy-eyed. He's one of the people that they show. We also got to see Brad talking about how much he loves his wife, because Brad is the new Rupert. And I'm going to try to make that a thing so that I can make everyone root against Brad. The one negative, the like overwhelming negative, is that we saw Cirie, who's an opinion that we tend to trust, not giving the leadership role to Brad.
See, but I think that's a positive too. Not just, Ciara's the target. I think it's because she still preserves an idea that Brad is somebody she can work with. Ciara is not. And that's another reason why Ciara was not, Cirie was not setting Brad up as the target. Because if Ciara goes away, then maybe she can scoop in Brad. We saw her working with, or at least working on Brad, prior to the merge, talking about how, touching his moment was or anything. So, and again, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I feel like that might be there.
No,
I picked up on the Zeke moment too, because it could have been a complete cutaway, right? Like he might not have been even in that scene, but as, this heartwarming moment, we see Brad Culpepper, little glassy eyed and just totally understanding the gravity of the moment. What a sensitive guy. I love Brad Culpepper. I'm so happy he won this season.
Yeah.
Is what they're trying to evoke there is what I'm getting at. And we should also just say right now, us talking like, we think the show is totally selling us Brad Culpepper does not equal us being invested in Brad Culpepper winning Survivor. We'll be happy to be wrong if it means somebody else is more interesting is going to win. Sadly, I feel like a lot of people who responded to our question, is anything but Brad going to win, was actually presenting worse scenarios to us. Oh, he might not win. He might just be the last competent person and a bunch of people who suck get to the finals. Like, that's worse. I would rather Brad win than, Debbie, Ciara, Troy, final three.
Oof, my God, that is the darkest of all timelines.
Are we overlooking another person with a shot to win?
Yeah, I think Ty generally is getting underestimated, mostly by the fans. I think in some ways there's some hints that he might be getting underestimated by the players out there and also a little bit by the edit. Although if the edit is underestimating him, that doesn't happen. They're properly evaluating him. But if you think back to the when he played his idol for Ciara, it seemed like credit for that was given to Brad more than it was for Ty. But Ty has been fairly active in this game. I mean, he's gone out, got immunity idols. He's saved his ally. He's got connections on both sides from his tribes that he's been on.
He finished second in a challenge and first in a challenge.
Right. And I think, and this is obviously not on the show, but I tend to suspect that they had a plan to take out Ozzy prior to that challenge. So his attempt to win that challenge was not just, I want to win a challenge. I think it was partly motivated by, we need to beat Ozzy so we can take him out. That's just me speculating, but it could be read that way to me.
Maybe. I think he just wanted to win a challenge, just like he wanted to beat Andrea the vote before. I think Ty's just that guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to rule that out. It certainly could go that way just as easily. But I think the one issue with Ty is that he can be playing a good game. And I think he probably is, but he's just always going to suffer from that perception, and partly because of a language barrier in some ways. But it's the same sort of perception that like Hannah had last season, where people are just going to perceive, people perceived Hannah as this indecisive spaz, so she's always the indecisive spaz, even if she made an occasional move. Like, I think that's going to happen with Ty, where people are just going to think, he puts his foot in his mouth at tribal council, so he's not really, a mastermind or anything like that. And so they'll discount his gameplay.
Yeah, or they'll say that like he was, Brad's puppet or something like that. I think that's how it's going to happen. And I think it's just, some of it could be legitimate. Like maybe, he isn't a quick thinker and he does defer to people. But some of it I do think is perception and all of that. And actually perception kind of floats back to the conversation about Debbie. And that, as we're giving her credit for flipping this move on Ozzy, we also saw Debbie as her whole I'm pretending to be drunk bit. Which, why? Well, what does that help you achieve? And she's all like, it makes people underestimate you. It's like, there's only a certain level of making people underestimate you that's helpful in Survivor. And at a certain point, they're just like, yeah, we're just not going to think highly of you, which, yeah, it might be a fine way of advancing. It's not a good way of winning. And that's a fine needle to thread. And I don't think she quite accomplished that.
Right. You don't necessarily want people to underestimate you. You just want them to not be too afraid of you. And again, it is a fine line. You got to thread that needle, but it's once you get to the point where everybody underestimates you, you can no longer win because they gave the credit for anything you did to someone else.
And that happened in Kaoh Rong a bit with Aubrey. I hear you have thoughts on Aubrey.
Well, not in this season because she is non-existent. As you said, she was like background scenery in some strategic discussions. I have no idea who she's aligned with. I don't know who she has any connections with. We have occasionally seen her giving confessionals, but I don't have any clue who her biggest ally in this game is. I don't know what her long-term strategy is. I don't know anything about Aubrey in this game, and it's like she exists outside of the game being played.
Yeah, and it's fun because our audience is our audience, that they just like keep envisioning these Aubrey counter scenarios and all that, and like, and they're like, oh, if only this, they would have featured Aubrey more or that. It's like, I legitimately think she's just like, floating out there and not, as a conscious strategy. I think just has nothing to hold on to and hasn't. And the game just keeps getting away from her. And that's where she is now. That she's just this dead-eyed husk walking in the background of conversations.
Yeah, it's rough. And the thing is, we did mention the Kaoh Rong thing. My point with the Kaoh Rong thing was just that Aubrey screwed up a lot in Kaoh Rong, and it happened to work out. And she got to the end. And by the end, she was probably the most reasonable choice for the viewers to think had played the best game.
But the jury did not see her that way because of how they had seen her previously.
Yeah, their perception of how she played was, she's the lady that crossed out her vote and wrote a different name in. And, she
hyperventilated on day 3 and yada, yada. Yeah.
Yeah. And she lucked out because she was going home, but then Neil got evacuated. So he went home instead. There was a lot of things.
And somehow having Joe as a pocket vote is a symbol of weakness versus strength.
Right. Exactly. I think with most other players, people would be like, wow, you really controlled that person. Nope. Not with Aubrey. Somehow that was Aubrey just being too lucky to have Joe as a pocket vote. Anyway.
Didn't actually vote with her a lot. Aubrey's a non-entity this season, and I don't think that's going to change other than her visibility spike. And she was the decoy. That's how little she's being thought of. It's like, we'll just tell him it's Aubrey. Which kind of gets back to another thing with Sierra Dawn Thomas. It feels like her decoy picks were just kind of something randomly that she thought of in that moment. What do we tell? Who do we tell them for? How about Zeke? And then Debbie actually comes in with, some reasoning for that. For me, I was like, why don't you just tell them each other? And obviously it became a little tougher when they came, Haley and Michaela came in at the same time. But yeah, It's like you tell Haley to vote for Michaela and you tell Michaela to vote for Haley. That's how you work a vote split. Just take those votes off the board. And then, then for the next, decoy, when at first it was going to be Zeke and then it was Ozzy, it's like, Aubrey. Because it's like, why not Aubrey? Who cares about Aubrey? And that tells you, like,
it's probably just she saw Aubrey walking by in the background. She's like, that one.
Possibly. But it also could just show that, Aubrey has no allies. In this big group of original Manas, obviously Aubrey was not one of them. And it was like Michaela, Haley, and Aubrey were just treated as these, like, afterthoughts by Sierra Dawn Thomas. They were like, the parts we haven't cut out yet. And that's, I think, where Aubrey is right now. She has no allies.
She's one of the red shirts. At the very least, Michaela, who started out as one of those, has seemed to align with Cirie at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's got that one thing. I don't know if she's got anything else, but that's something.
It's something. It's one more ally than I can name for Aubrey.
All right, so I guess we should talk about the people who actually went home in these episodes, but, not too much. This will be fun. Every episode we've been talking about what the defining moment of somebody's game is. And we got to come up with one for her entire time for Haley Ford. What was the defining moment of Haley Ford's Survivor career?
The best one I could come up with was, do you remember that time when she loved America? The greatest flippers of all time? That was about it.
Yes. Yeah, and there's the thing, even that moment has kind of been retrofitted to Mike. I mean, her speech obviously is hers, but when people think America, they think of Mike even more than Haley, even though apparently it was her idea, which I think works as a defining moment. I'll say that her big moment, and this actually can also lead into a discussion of her game, which also will not this season. Also not going to be a long conversation, was the tribal council where Malcolm goes home. And for one, I think this will be her defining moment because I think her I did not consent will be a gift that gets reused for future generations. But also, that's where we see her, just get up and go and talk to the other side. And, in the middle of discussions, then, she says, she stops the vote. I did not consent. And then you guys will be sorry. These are, I think, the highlights of this season and, her whole time. And I think it kind of shows why she was not good at all. Because we said it at the time, and I think it bared out, that was a dumb thing for her to do. And she never got on the side of the people who she spent the majority of her time with.
Yeah, it was slim pickings for the moment anyway. I'm surprised we even came up with two.
Well, I mean, we did because we had to, but yeah. I mean, the other thing I was going to say is her Ponderosa at Worlds Apart. It's maybe that's the whole reason why people thought, hey, maybe there actually is something to Haley. Because, she seems delightful. And I get the sense that she, in a small group, in a non-competitive Survivor setting, she might actually pop. As I've said, and people kind of think I'm some kind of fan. She's pretty. That's all I've said. She is pretty. She's got a bit of a quirky personality. One that gets to feel even more quirky because she's pretty. It's oh, she's so funny because we didn't expect anything from her at all. But yeah, I mean, she's not much of a Survivor player. I'd hope maybe she was something because she was such a blank slate that there could be something. No, there's nothing. She wasn't really able to make bonds with besides 3 people her entire time. She was on the outs and made sure to stay on the outs. She's just luckily to avoid tribal council again. Or when she went to a tribal council, lucky that they brought another tribe with her and she almost messed that moment up. So that leads into, I think, a bigger question, probably more interesting than what's her defining moment. Is Haley Ford the most forgettable returnee in the history of Survivor?
I think if I had to pick someone, I would probably put Brenda ahead of her. I actually forget that Brenda played twice most of the time, partly because I think I forget that she even played once. I guess you could say maybe Brenda showed a little bit more agency in her first time playing than Haley did in either time playing. But man, Brenda was completely invisible in Caramoan up until the one moment when we saw her and she kind of sucked.
Yeah, so you just said a whole bunch of reasons why Brenda is light years ahead of Haley Ford. Because she has a moment where she sucked. And Haley Ford doesn't have that memorable thing. But for Nicaragua, she was kind of a feature-esque character, and she was taken out because she was somewhat threatening. Again, and she was brought back because she was the star finger quotes of Nicaragua, and none of this applies to Haley, right? Haley was Jen's friend. That was just kind of there her first season, and then this season she's taken in a season where everybody's targeting big threats. They were just yeah, sure, let's just get rid of Haley. It's just easier that way. She's the one person who wasn't taken out to be a threat. I think the only close comp, and I should say Emma on Slack was well, if you can think of them right away, then they can't be it.
Right. Because
the whole point of forgettable is it takes a while to think about it. So that's why, yeah, Caleb, him almost dying is more memorable than anything Haley did. It's Monica Padilla. I think it's a real tough match between Monica Padilla and Haley Ford. That's the level we're at.
That's impressive.
Because even Francesca, right? She only played, I don't know, 10 days or something because of Redemption Island. But that's what's memorable about her.
Right.
She's first boot twice. That's far more memorable. And, and in that short time, she actually popped a bit. Haley was brought back as like, she's pretty and maybe she can do something. Nah.
Well, I think that might also apply to Monica.
Exactly, yeah. So that's your big, for me, that's the big battle. Who is more forgettable? And I guess I will say, like, I had actually forgotten Monica when the second chance votes happened. But I'm sure that would have also been the case, or possibly been the case with Haley if it had been as much time as it was from Samoa.
So let's instead talk about the legacy of our boy Ozzy. I'm going to let you start because I really just want you to have the opportunity, because, we've been podcasting for a long time, and I'm going to look out for you here. Go ahead and tell us how Ozzy should have won, because this is his fourth time and it should be easy. Go ahead. I'm setting this up for you. Go ahead. Knock it down.
I think you just said everything I needed to say. Apparently it's not so easy to win on a fourth time, and people, and maybe I'll get into this again and when it happens again. And people can say like, oh, well, this is a returnee season, as though Ozzy was beaten by the cream of the crop of Survivor returnees. Like, whether it's his memorable moment, it's like, it's gotta be a challenge, right? Like, that's what Ozzy is. He is a challenge competitor, and the problem there is you and I don't really remember individual challenges very much. So, yeah, if somebody's got it, it's like I think just like the lasting image of Ozzy is like diving into water. That is a legit great thing. But, it's like 10, 12, 15 different times in the history of Survivor. So for me, I decided to go all the way back to Cook Islands. Mostly just this is when I actually liked Ozzy. The short frame of when I liked Ozzy. And it wasn't the beginning of Cook Islands when I thought he was a douchebag. Mm-hmm. But once Candace flips in Mutiny, and then they have a challenge, and there's only 4 I2 against all those other bigger, the bigger tribe, the small tribe, and they win. And Ozzy, who had been, first he was, the douchey guy who threw a challenge to get rid of somebody. Then he was kind of treated as this little oddity in the bigger tribe that, it's like, we'll get rid of him eventually. He steps out and yells, in their celebration, mutineers are the first to die. And then they send Candace to exile. And, it's like, hey, do I like Ozzy? Ozzy, yeah, that was kind of fun. That was kind of cool. He's the plucky underdog. And that's it for me. And then it's all been downhill since then.
Oh, see, I agree on the all been downhill part. For me, the most memorable thing is the Ozziest of moves, volunteering to be voted out so that he could win his way back in via Redemption Island challenge back in South Pacific, which again is, for a person with a complex grasp of strategy like Ozzy, that is about as strategic as Ozzy gets. Like, Ozzy can win a challenge. I know what I'll do. I'll get voted out and then win a challenge. Hooray! That's as far as he thought out that plan. He's not a mastermind. He legit thinks that, catching fish for other people is the reason that he should be kept in the game. Like, he's not the most complex of Survivor players.
Yeah, no, it's like a perfect harmony of what is Ozzy. It's like the only strategy he can enact is how can I leverage my challenge use? Because in the moment as I was watching it, his whole plan is we can get numbers if I go to Exile Island and take out the person there. The problem is the person there was Christine Shields, who hated her tribe. And not only because they voted her out, she was combative with them. And this is back when you could sit there and watch the challenges.
Yep.
And she was seething openly at Coach and company. So it's like, maybe a more strategic thinker, maybe a more social, player would have, looked at that as like, this is an opening. We could probably bring her to our side. And in doing so, we could get rid of Cochran, who I don't know if he's really on our side.
He might be a little tempted to flip on us after we belittled him for 20 straight days.
So yeah, no, I do think that's the answer, because it's Ozzy in a nutshell. He did win. He went on, constantly won at Redemption Island once he went back there, for the second time. Nobody's been voted out of Survivor more times than Ozzy. 5 in total. And that's including a season where he was not voted out. So that's impressive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just like, yeah. And he was so impressed with himself and his big strategy. Just like he was so impressed with himself when he decided to come up with the fake idol plan, that was the worst fake idol of all time, yet possibly one of the most successful fake idols of all time.
It was both simultaneously the worst and the best fake idol of all time.
And it's like, this is going to work. And I almost got the feeling that the rest of his tribe is like, really? I mean, okay, Ozzy, that's your idea, but it seems like a little old for complication here. I think there was a little bit of people celebrating, like, ha ha ha, at least we got Ozzy's comeuppance. Like, I don't feel like this was comeuppance this time. Yeah, I think Ozzy going out this time was as much comeuppance as Sandra going out, or if Cirie goes out. I would have liked more comeuppance, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and on that note, we should discuss predictions for next week. Is there anybody getting some comeuppance?
I don't think so, not necessarily. In part because, as I say, like, I don't think people getting voted out because they're targeted for being threatening this season is much of a comeuppance. It's more of, yeah, that's what's happening this season. The one thing I'm not sure, like, I'm trying to figure out with my prediction is in the previews, we get Sarah talking to Zeke about ready to make a big move. And Zeke, of course, being like, yeah, I'd love to do that because, he loves to do that. And, he's not in a great position right now. Mm-hmm. I decided none of that matters. They're just going to vote out Andrea.
No. See, I was going to go the other way and predict the darkest scenario once again. Cirie.
Why Cirie?
Same logic. Just that instead of Andrea, it would be Cirie. Although the Andrea thing does make sense just because I get the impression that Andrea will make it known to Zeke that she's disappointed in him. And that might make him more likely to try to steer the vote toward Andrea. But I think that that's going to be the red herring, and we get Cirie instead.
Yeah, why I think Andrea instead of Cirie is that she won a challenge, and she's a threat to win another challenge. And also I think Cirie, I put my faith in her and be able to work her way past Andrea in the boot order by taking this L in stride. And she didn't vote for Zeke, right? Although I don't know how voting for Sierra Thomas would have helped her. But yeah, I just think they'll just view Andrea as the more threatening short-term player.
And look, I'm not rooting for Cirie to go home by any means. That would be the most devastating outcome.
Of course not.
I'm just prepped for the most devastating outcome.
This is Game Changers after all.
Exactly. All right. So that's it for this week. Check out our website, purplerockpodcast.com. Find us on Twitter @PurpleRockPod. I'm @PurpleRockJohn. Andy is @PurpleRockAndy. And where can they find our podcast?
iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and then a bunch of random stuff that, I've just suddenly seen myself. Let us know, actually, out there, if there's a podcatcher that you use that we're not on. Maybe there's something we can do about that. Last week for the Amazon promotion, so if you're really excited about watching HBO's Game Change, this is the time.
Yeah, you'll notice that there's an obnoxious ad on the bottom of all our posts right before you get to the comments. If you click on that specific ad, we're getting a little bit of extra revenue this month. So if you would, that'd be great. If not, then whatever. You don't. It's fine.
Special thanks for our guest columnists this week, Emin, Scout, and BK. As we stated last podcast, there was only so much perspective we could have offered, and we were happy to have another perspective. So thank you to Em for writing that, and thank you to everybody, or everybody who's listening to this that commented on the post. I think it was a good discussion. I'm proud of the way discussions have gone this past week, and that they've been open and honest and that sort of thing.
And thank you to all the haters that brought their weakness into our mentions and got swatted down. On that note, hit the theme music.
That's what it's like when a woman wants a baby.